today, just a couple of notes as we begin. First, as you'll note, everyone is muted to start. However, asking your questions is key to our interaction today. So please use that Q&A feature in the Zoom toolbar to submit your questions. And then once the question's in, we will read that question aloud and then unmute the person that submitted that question so that there can be interaction amongst the panelists and the person asking the questions, and then others may submit additional questions throughout the discussion as well. But first, I'm going to just take about 10 minutes or so of our time here to introduce our panelists, and then I'll ask a couple of questions just to get the dialogue going. So with that, let's begin by introducing our panelists. So I'd like to first introduce Sudhir, as Sudhir Gupta is a AWS senior architect, and Sudhir works with strategic partners and customers, designing, building, and the migrations of data warehouse solutions on the AWS platform. Sudhir has over 14 years working with databases and analytics, and also he was part of the Amazon.com team, where he helped migrate one of the largest legacy Oracle data warehouses, greater than 50 petabytes, to AWS Data Lake and Amazon Redshift. So welcome Sudhir. Also, I'd like to introduce Shaker. Shaker is also a senior solutions architect with AWS and has been helping customers build solutions around data and analytics for the past 1.5 years. He brings, though, over 20 years of experience working with databases and analytics with customers in a variety of verticals. Welcome, Shaker. I'd also like to introduce Bal Harar. Bal is the CEO of Mactores and has built a practice around data and analytics to solve their unique challenges while ensuring a high ROI and cost savings. And of course, our final panelist is Milan. And Milan is an industry veteran, having worked with data and analytics for over 15 years. He's the principal partner development specialist at AWS, working with strategic partners around analytics and Redshift. So with that said, Milan, let's start with an easy one. I'm going to start with you. And I think all of us at this meetup can agree that data is extremely important, but how are organizations leveraging data today?
Yeah, that's a great question, Dan, and happy to be here, and thanks for the invite, and to all the participants,
you
thank you for joining us, so appreciate that. So yeah, to answer your questions, organizations that successfully generate business value from their data outperform their peers. An earlier Aberdeen survey saw organizations who had implemented analytics outperforming similar companies by 9% in organic revenue growth. Data help these organizations to identify and act upon opportunities for business growth faster by attracting and retaining customers, boosting productivity, and making informed decisions. In yet another recent study, IDC predicts that by 2022, more than 40% of global GDP, in fact, they said 46% of global GDP, will be digitized, with growth in every industry driven by digitally enhanced offerings, operations, and relationships. So data is a huge asset. No one disputes that. In fact, some people have called data as the new oil, and organizations that leverage data succeed more than others.
Yeah, I can see this is very insightful, and hopefully it gives our audience a chance to kind of correlate that with their world. But can you also give us a couple of examples?
Sure. At the heart of every business model, it's all about winning and retaining customers while improving efficiencies in your business operations. One of the key ways of finding new customers is to delight your existing customers and then use them to create a community of proponents that will bring in additional customers. Peloton, for example, has a passionate community of riders who are helping each other meet their own fitness goals. At the center of Peloton's product is something called the leaderboard, where users can see the other riders and their statistics, power output, cadence, resistance, and heart rate. This requires processing of large amounts of data at microsecond latency. Another example is Lyft's ability to provide real-time location updates to both riders and drivers are both examples of better customer experience because of the ability of the application and developers to take advantage of the data available to them. And finally, hundreds of paper and tissue rolls are produced every day at Georgia Pacific manufacturing facilities across North America. Georgia Pacific is using analytics to predict precisely how fast lines should run to avoid tearing of those paper rolls. They have improved business efficiencies and increased profits by millions of dollars as a result.
Well, okay, that's going to lead me to wonder, do we need to now look at all of the data?
It may be difficult to look at all the data. A survey by Forbes found that by making just an additional 10% more data accessible for analytics, a typical Fortune 1000 company will see a $65 million increase in net income. Companies that innovate are using all the data from all the channels they can in ways to increase revenue, drive away inefficiencies, and retain customers and employees through harnessing the intelligence gathered from this data. Where previously you had economies of scale, you now have what IDC calls economies of intelligence.
Okay, good. This is great. So now let's discuss some of the trends you're seeing. What are a couple examples of trends you've seen emerge?
Right, so far we have established that organizations need to analyze data. They have to be successful, and that they need to analyze as much data as they can. So this has not been lost upon many of the organizations. And one of the trends we have seen over the last few years is migration to the cloud. Organizations are using economies of cloud to store all or a lot of their data. The other trend we all know about is exponential growth of event data, such as data from log files, social media, as well as clickstream data. For example, retailers are looking at clickstream data along with purchasing data to gain end-to-end insights into customer purchasing patterns and what incentives to provide to customers to complete a sale.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Can you give us an example or two of this type of data?
Yeah, sure. So Pfizer, for example, processes over 2 trillion healthcare events per year, such as prescription pills and refills, outputs from wearable devices and applications, patient claims, health records, and targeted clinical trials. Pfizer has reduced their cost to store and process a healthcare event by over 50%, increased the amount of events processed by over 400% by moving to a cloud-based data lake, and reduced the time required to gather and prepare data for regulatory submissions by a factor of 5, and also avoided repeated experimentation, which would otherwise have taken extra 3 weeks of scientists' time. Another example is Atlassian, who has, for example, reduced customer churn by combining CRM, social media, and incident tracking tickets to correlate customer satisfaction with sales. Another example is Siemens Cyber Defense Center, who uses cloud-based artificial intelligence and machine learning to process huge amounts of data and make immediate decisions about how best to counter any detected threats.
This is fantastic. So now that we know that data is important, and of course it's important to leverage all the data, or at least as much of it as you can, why is it so hard?
Yeah, it is hard. The same Forbes survey that I talked about earlier showed that while 85% of businesses want to be data-driven, only 37% have been successful. So why is it so hard? Well, there are multiple reasons for that. First is that data, as you can see here, exists in silos in the on-premises world, and scaling that data is a huge issue. Third, it is hard to provide access to everyone, especially given security considerations. Data stores used to be secure, need to be secure, whether you're storing data in a data warehouse and database or a data lake, because you're landing all of the data into a single repository and you're allowing broader access across organizations to that repository. A fourth issue is transforming data. Data exists in many different formats. Data analysts typically need data to be moved and transformed to be ready for consumption for analysis. With AWS, the process is all integrated, and you may not even have to move or transform your data for analysis. And finally, it's about lack of expertise, not having the right skills or the right tools to manage all of this data. At AWS, we believe in not only having the right tool for the right job, but also ensuring that the tools operate together to provide a seamless analytics experience and make it easy for our customers and partners. In a recent study, IDC interviewed 11 organizations that use AWS and calculated that study participants would achieve average annual benefits of over $6 million per organization, which translates to about $100,000 per business application. In addition, over 40% reduction in total cost of operations and another 40% reduction in IT infrastructure cost, which would result in a 5-year return on investment of over 400% and just a 9-month payback period.
Okay, so this has been very insightful, and I do want to ask you just one more question, but I want to let the audience know, for everyone listening, if you could, submit your questions. Our panel of data experts are ready to provide their insights and have that dialogue with everyone. So Milan, my last question, just to kind of get things framed a little bit, is, what does a customer data journey look like? Can you share some trends that you've seen in terms of a customer's journey to help our audience to kind of picture where they are on their journey? And then that might help them gain a little insights about how they can get to the next phase.
Sure. And as you can imagine, we have seen customers take very different approaches to achieving their goals. However, there are some common patterns that have emerged, and we have encapsulated that in what we call the data flywheel approach.
So, okay, this is good. So I'd also like our panelists, hey, Sudhir, good morning, and Shikhar, good morning, and Bal. Can you give us a few insights on this approach? So, feel free to jump in, and as Milan kind of walks us through this flywheel. So, Milan, take it away, and then guys, let's get maybe some brief insights, and the audience can get their questions submitted, and we'll go from there. Please, Milan.
Sure, thanks. So one of the first steps in a customer journey is moving data to the cloud as a way to reduce storage cost and gain some experience with computing in the cloud. The next step is to kickstart your data journey and start turning this flywheel by breaking free of the constraints of legacy databases. Legacy databases are expensive, proprietary, lock you in, they offer punitive licensing terms, and also come with frequent audits. So for these reasons and more, legacy databases simply cannot give you the credibility, scalability, flexibility, as well as cost efficiency you need to build a data flywheel that can successfully achieve all your self-sustaining momentum. Next, customers realize that managing databases and analytics infrastructure can be tedious and time-consuming in the on-premises world. Moving to a fully managed service on AWS allows customers to spend time innovating, building new applications, and not managing infrastructure. Once the customers have done this and have the data in AWS, they can now build data-driven applications. These are applications that take full advantage of the data available to an organization and use it to provide better capabilities and experience for their customers. Some of the examples that we talked about earlier. Next, a modern cloud-based data warehousing strategy allows customers to store, process, and analyze more data faster and more efficiently. It's time to embrace a more flexible architecture like data lake, which is a centralized repository that stores all your data and enables new types of analytics. Data lakes allow customers to store all the data in its native or open formats. This allows customers to, one, query and analyze their data in one place without dealing with unnecessary data movement, and two, perform any type of analysis on their data on an as-needed basis. Now, once they've organized their data, customers can now turn data into insights. One of the challenges customers find is that they have all of this data they've accumulated over a large period of time. And unfortunately, the data lives in these silos all over the place in the on-premises world, which makes doing analytics and machine learning painful, expensive, and slow. And that's why companies are excited about being able to build data lakes, to bring all that data together, to make analytics and machine learning much easier, and customers can leverage that to gain additional insights from their data. So this data flywheel is just like a normal flywheel that needs an initial push to get going. But then the key initial initiatives feed and are driven by each other to build long-term business momentum. Customers can remove technologies as a conversation and focus on business conversations and the art of what's possible.
Okay, good. Let's bring this to life a little bit. Val, maybe you want to kick us off on a summary of a customer experience?
Absolutely, Dan. So one of our customers were using a lot of on-premise Oracle, MySQL, MS SQL kind of databases, and they were using all of these databases for different purposes. One were transactional, another were for data warehousing, and a few were used just for pure analytical purposes. And one of the challenges was these databases on-premise were not scalable, didn't support the number of users they used to get. They used to have at least 10,000 users every hour. So it goes quickly to 1 million users per week. And then that used to create a lot of bandwidth and scalability challenges for them on-premise. So we worked with them migrating and transforming their platform to AWS, where we first started, as Milan said, this requires an initial push. So we transformed their databases to Aurora DB on Postgres and MySQL. And as we saw that moving inside managed databases on AWS, we quickly went back and figured out what more we can do from the transformation perspective. And that's when we helped them implement the whole data warehouse on Redshift. And that was just the start. That was the beginning of the transformation, I would say, even if for their IT team, that was good enough. Because as soon as we moved to Redshift, their data sciences, data engineering team came along, and they wanted to now build more AI-based, more machine learning-based solutions, which would enhance their application. And they could do this pretty fast and very quick, because a lot of these data were available on Redshift, on S3, on the services on AWS, which would help them quickly process and build different new models, build different solutions, which would enhance their platform. So we firmly believe in this flywheel, and we have seen customers not only taking the first step of migrating to cloud, but once they are migrated, then innovate with more modern solutions. And this is where our automation has helped them migrate to cloud using, with minimum time and with high efficiency.
Yeah, good. Oh, and to our audience, again, go ahead, submit your questions, maybe something specific that Val raised here, but I would like Sudhir to jump in. Could you maybe enlighten us a little bit about an experience you've had?
Yeah, I think I would like to add an example of a customer, Equinox Fitness, so who migrated, from their Teradata warehouse to the Amazon Redshift just because the Teradata was expensive and it was not meeting the scales they were expecting from the data warehouse solutions. So what they did, definitely, when our guys talked to them, then they thought of setting up the data lake and for the data lake, they chose the Amazon S3 first, so they started dumping all the data from various sources, like they started dumping the clickstream data, their log data, club management data, and there are some other data marts. So they started ingesting everything in Amazon S3 data lake. And from there, then they run some ETL pipelines to ingest the data from data lake to Amazon Redshift. So that the highly, I mean, the data where the people are running the report very frequently so that they can get the fast report from the data warehouse solutions. And at the same time, they are using some other services like the EMR and the Presto and the Athena, so that they can also do the, the analysis on the whole data sets, whatever they have available. Because earlier what was happening, they were not able to run, there was no central place to run the entire analysis from one place. And that again to the cost effective manner. So with the help of S3 with the Redshift approach, they were able to do that. And you will not believe, they were able to run the entire infrastructure in AWS and better scalability in the cost. They were paying just 20% of what they used to pay to the Teradata. So definitely, it was for them, it's like they got the better scale and at the very low price.
That's
and plus,
great.
they started focusing more on, the development side so that they can, their people especially, they can invest more on developing the solutions, not rather than maintaining the, the expensive hardware appliances.
Yeah. It's just interesting the differences in those use cases just described. So, hey Saker, just please add to the party here. What experience can you tell to the audience?
Yeah, I think I also I know I was Bal was talking about moving to managed, and I also definitely have one customer. There are several customers. I think one comes to my mind, which is a financial services company. So they wanted to extricate themselves from their Oracle licenses, and that was one thing. The other thing was basically they also wanted to. They were not able to scale as they were growing, and they wanted to move to a database that scales with their growth, right? So they wanted to first move to Aurora, which is our relational database, and that combines the performance and availability of traditional enterprise databases with the simplicity and cost effectiveness of open source databases. So and similarly, they also, I know this is a Redshift based webinar, so they were also had a similar cost and scaling issues with their Oracle data warehouses. So as well, so they wanted to move these to Amazon Redshift as well. I think Bal, you may be aware. Mactores is in the middle of executing the project right now. So I don't know if you want to add anything to that. I think they were, and they also wanted to take advantage of, they have this data lake, and they wanted something that actually is very well integrated with the data lake. They really like the lake house experience that Redshift brings to the table, and they are in the process of moving. And Bal, if you want to add to it, feel free.
Yeah, no, I absolutely concur with you, and I think that is where the customer is seeing the most value, is not only getting rid of licensing and old technology, but then rapidly moving to new modern ways of building analytics platform for their internal teams, so they can enhance customer experience, as well as it directly affects the company's bottom line and top line. So you can see that from the business team appreciating the value of the transformation which is happening.
Yep.
Good. Well, this is great, and I'm looking forward to having you guys provide some insight specific to what the audience has for questions. This is an audience participation meetup, so thank you all for joining and submitting your questions. The floor is now yours, as they say. So we'll give a second or two for some of those questions to continue coming in, and we'll keep the question bar open throughout till we get to the top of the hour.
Sure. Dan, I think there is a question from the guest, Ms. P. And I would allow, I'll open your mic, SP, so you can ask that question. So I'm just enabling that. Hopefully you can start your mic and ask your question.
SP, are you there?
So do you hear me? Sorry.
There we are. Hi, welcome. Yeah, please.
All right. I had to hit a couple of buttons.
Yeah.
All right. So my question is, see, there are a lot of norms to go and tell a client that this is the right way to go. But the first thing which comes into picture is the return of investment, right? So to justify a return of investment, there's so many parameters. One of that is cost saving. The other one is competitive edge, they gain over a period of time. But where do you start? What are the standard parameters you use to justify a return of investment?
So, Milan, do you want to take this question?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, SP, for that question. So most of the conversations that we have start with cost savings. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Cost savings is the first point of topic that we have to sort of help the customers overcome. But then I would also not just focus on TCO, or total cost of ownership, but I would also, as I talked about earlier, think about the art of what's possible, right? So when you paint a picture to the customer about where they are today and where they can be, and talk about how with the investments that they're making, they can achieve that. So whether it be through leveraging analytics and gaining more insight that we talked about, some of the statistics we talked about, as well as using machine learning and AI to drive even more insight. So and all the creating applications that can now drive additional revenue for the customers. So I would start with having a cost discussion for the customer, absolutely, especially given the current times. But then also not hesitate in talking to them about the art of what's possible and paint a picture of how they can get there. Bal?
Yeah, absolutely. So cost saving is, of course, one huge motivator for the companies to migrate to cloud. But what really ends up happening is cost saving is the one aspect of it. We have seen customers adopting the new analytics mechanisms to enhance their revenue. So cost savings might be somewhere around anywhere between 40 to 60%. But when you present this to an executive team, which is and everybody from CEOs, chief revenue officers, to the CFO, what they also see over a year and a half is the new analytics platform which they introduced has actually increased their top line. So cost saving is the bottom line. When you look at from the business, you have efficient operations, so you're saving money. But when it affects top line, that is where it really matters a lot, because that is adding money, adding revenue to your business. So we look at this from the perspective of first 1 year of cost savings, and then 1 to 1.5 years of enhancing your business and taking it to the next level. So it's not just the cost saving, which is an initial push, or you can say that's the starter. But the conversation really is a 3 year horizon where beyond cost saving, you really start seeing business momentum because of the new solutions which you're building.
Thanks, thanks. Perfect. Yeah. Well, we have been talking about, most of the time we go into the roadmap and we talk about it, but absolutely right. You answered perfectly, of how to proceed on a ROI perspective. Thanks.
Thank you. So SP, you can go on mute right now, so we can take next questions. Thank you. So I think the next question is from Ninad. So Ninad, do you want to unmute yourself and go ahead with your question?
Yeah, so we don't have a lot of skills around analytics platforms or staff to manage a data warehouse. So how does some of these services will help us?
So Sudhir and Shikhar, do you want to take this question?
Yeah, sure. So AWS provides a range of online and in-person trainings. In fact, we have created so many blogs, white paper around the best practices, including how those services can be used in effective way. So people can definitely leverage those trainings, and most of the trainings are available to the people. The public link. So definitely you can leverage that. And plus, we also have, some partners like Mactores. They do not only have the deep expertise on Amazon Redshift and on the other analytics services, but they also provide some accelerator tools, processes, references, which can help you to migrate from legacy environments and the calculated, to the modern data warehouse or the data lake environment with the calculated risk and even with the short span of the time. That is the main benefit you will get it from like the partner like the Mactores. And additionally, we also have solutions architect and professional services teams, which we are available to the customer throughout the journey of their migrations. So feel free to use, us, our plus our documentations or the blogs, plus the expertise from the partners like the Mactores.
Yes, I completely agree, and also I think I wanted to add to what Sudhir was saying. In addition to that, I want to actually look at this in a different way. Staffing and training is one thing, and then definitely Mactores, partners like Mactores can really speed up, you accelerate your implementations and migrations. But in addition to that, I also wanted to look at it from the perspective of the usability of the product itself. Redshift has invested a lot on several ease of use aspects. So if you look at the investments that are happening in how a lot of automations are being introduced. So because we have the advantage of machine learning is being used to make it a lot easier for doing management around Redshift. Like for example, if you like automatic auto table sort, automatic vacuuming, and automatic workload management and storage management in RA3, decoupling of storage and compute, so that you do not have to invest on compute just because you have excess data. So and many more, and I don't want to list all of them here, but there's so much of investment that's being happening, and we are continuing to invest to take away as much of the heavy lifting from the customers as possible, using machine learning, for example, and there's so much more going on. And these releases, these are happening every month. New ease of use features are being introduced, and a lot of the training will probably become obviated over a period of time, because it becomes just easy to focus your attention on creating those insights from data, like Milan was talking about, rather than taking backups and doing things like that. So just
Thank
wanted
you.
to.
So we have a next question from David Martin Graf. And David, you're unmuted. Please go ahead and ask your question.
Oh, yes, thank you. So just wanted to get some information on what's some of the continual production capabilities based on the architecture included in cost savings used with the customer data flywheel and other models.
So David, can you explain a little bit more about your question, because this question seems to be a little bit confusing to us. What are we focusing on?
Yeah, I mean, basically just how does Redshift procure, I guess, through the cost savings model? How does the module procure, like, I guess, cross-selling advantages or data harvesting synergies?
So
Okay.
it is more on how does AWS provide such a large cost saving? What is in that AWS architecture itself, which helps customer benefit and save cost when they migrate to AWS rather than running it on premise?
Right. So I'll certainly start the conversation, and then maybe Shekhar and Sudhir can jump in with more of a detailed answer. So we talked about the data lakehouse approach, which is you don't actually have to move your data or transform your data when you do analytics. And because of the economies of cloud, you can now do more analysis at a much lower cost. And so the idea is that with Redshift, one, you don't have to bring all your data into a data warehouse to be able to do analytics, especially on real-time data. And what you can also be doing is you push the results of the analytics out to the data store so that you can have it available for others at a much lower cost. But I'll let Sudhir and Shekhar answer more in detail.
Yeah, from the Redshift perspective, I can tell you. So we provide several features like the cost control, Redshift spectrum, concurrency scaling, RA3 node introductions, pause resume capability, which can help the customer to improve the not only the performance as well as to reduce the price. So like with the spectrum, right? I mean, now people can store most of the data in the Amazon S3 data lake, which is really cheaper. I mean, no storage can come at the cost of what you can, what you paid for Amazon S3, and you get the highly durable and highly available data availability as well. So you can leverage that kind of data lake to run your jobs. No need to create a really big giant data warehouse cluster just to process, the ad hoc kind of data sets. So people can leverage those. And then the RA3, now it is a recent innovations which we have made, which, I mean, separate the scale and which separate the storage and the cost, storage and the compute, So now you can scale as you want. If you have the storage-based data warehouse system, yes, you can keep adding more, keep using the RMS kind of storage for storing the data set so that it will be really cost effective. And if you have the demand, the compute centric, no need to create the big hardware appliances, just add the more computes only to process to meet the performance of the jobs, which you are really expecting it from the data warehouse. Plus, we also added, some of the features like Redshift Advisor, which gives you machine learning based recommendations to improve the performance and reduce the cost. So, and it is rightly available, in the Amazon Redshift console only. So, I mean, if you just pay attention on the console, you will know what you need to do it to optimize the performance and reduce the cost of your Amazon Redshift. So yeah, definitely, I mean, these are the things customer can think and available in, with Amazon Redshift.
So I think the question was a little different. I think let me just try to answer David. And David, let me know if this is helping you. And I have unmuted you right now. So the reason Amazon can give you the cost saving is because it's a hyper dense environment. So what they do, they go and procure a lot of hardware from the vendors so they can get huge amount of discount. And then they build innovations over these data centers and this hardware, which allows you to optimally use the required piece of the hardware to run your data warehouses. And then as Sudhir was talking, they keep on building innovations to further go and keep on optimizing your data warehouse use case on the given hardware. So for AWS, it is cheaper to slice a piece of hardware from the data warehouse to run your data from the data center and run your data warehouse, which further can continue the optimization to reduce your costs. That's where they can pass the benefit of running a hyper dense cloud, where they can give slice of that compute power to you whenever you need. And that really reduces your operation cost, licensing cost.
Is it easier once you start utilizing the resource to achieve economies of scale and scope, or is it more advantageous for someone who's looking away from using the resource, maybe using a competitor or another competency altogether? Are those synergy or those economies of scale and scope easier to realize from adopting or from already being an implementing member of the resource?
So there are two ways of looking at it, and we call it as green and brown implementation. So for an example, you are starting your data warehouse journey and you don't have any optimized product. You benefit in the green implementation because you will be wasting very less resources to do experimentation, and it is pay as you go. You do not commit to anything. So you pay per hour. And then if you are in an experimentation mode, you spend as less as $100 in experimenting with a very high scale data warehousing system, right? So for an example, Redshift data warehouse, if you start one node, it's like $3 per hour. So in $30 for 10 hours, you can experiment, or for a week, you can spend around $300 and understand and play with the system and understand how it is helping you. But if you had to go and take any on-premise system, you have to buy the hardware license and everything it starts from even starting the negotiation with them. So yeah, AWS first allows you very high flexibility when you're starting. So that is green implementation where you are starting net new, and then we call it as brown implementation where you already are running solutions like Oracle Data Warehouse, Netezza, um, uh, Teradata, or Microsoft SQL, which you're running on premise, and then now you're planning to move to Redshift. So what is the immediate benefit in the cost you get is you do not need to maintain your hardware on premise. You don't need to upgrade your hardware. You don't need to keep a lot of staffing around maintaining the physical data center where your data warehouse is running. And when you move to cloud, one of the major benefit is you can pause the data warehouse when it's not being used, say on the weekends maybe. So you do not incur any costs. So it is actually pay as you go. So you only pay for what you use. So for an instance, if you're running a Netezza data warehouse on premise and you are paying say $600,000 every year for support to IBM, and then running the hardware infrastructure on premise, maintaining it. So as soon as you move to Redshift, that cost suddenly decreases to about 30% per annum. And now you are not maintaining a piece of hardware, you're not maintaining a lot of software support and licensing, you're paying one flat fee per hour. So what happens is when you move to the economies of scale is beneficial in both cases. It depends how you approach it. When you're net new, you get benefit of economies of scale. When you're migrating from your existing solution, still you can take benefit of scale. So let's take Arprit. Please unmute yourself and you can go ahead with your question.
Hey, hi, Mal. Am I audible? Am I clear?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. So I was evaluating multiple products and I've seen that some products have compute and storage separated, right? Just to save the cost. So can we have something on the Amazon Analytics platform?
Sure, I think I will start. So AWS offers a broad range of analytics services like the Amazon EMR, Redshift, Athena, Lake Formation services, which customer can use to build a platform which separate the storage as well as the compute. And so even I would like to call out about the AWS Data Warehouse service specific Amazon Redshift, because it has a unique capability and it allows the customer to implement a lake house approach model. So what is a lake house? So basically you build a data lake based upon the Amazon S3, and you create Amazon Redshift as a data warehouse service where you store the most frequently used the data sets to process, but you get an ability to query it from one single endpoint, which is Amazon Redshift. So you can query not only the Amazon Redshift data, which you have ingested, but at the same time, you can query and join the data with the data which is stored in Amazon S3. And for that, you just need to create some basic external table and register it into the Amazon Redshift, but you get the full insights, So now you are operating like, the data lake plus data warehouse, and where the storage is completely separated. So like the nodes I was talking earlier, like the RA3 nodes, it has two things. It is having the compute node and it has the RMS, the Redshift managed storage, and you both can be scaled independently.
Sure. Shikhar, you want to add to that?
Yes. Are you able to hear me, or am I on mute? Yes. Okay.
You're good.
All right. So, yeah, in addition to what Sudhir said, I think definitely that we also have recently introduced other features like the query federation. So you can compute and storage decoupling is actually has been taken to the next level by not only keeping the storage in the realm of the object storage of S3, whereas also extending it to operational databases as well. Now, for example, now you can run queries on Redshift federated across Postgres databases that are running operational workloads without having to load the data into Redshift from your OLTP database. This is currently supported in RDS Postgres and Aurora Postgres today, but we have roadmap to expand it. And Redshift issues subqueries with the predicate pushed down and retrieves the result rows. So, and then Redshift distributes the result rows among the compute nodes for further processing. So you are able to get the performance of Redshift, the MPP performance of Redshift at the same time. And then you do not have to load your data as frequently as a typical data warehouse would do. So you do not have to. So typically, you have this 80-20 rule. Like 20% of the data is accessed very frequently, and 80% of the data is important, but may not be needed to be accessed as frequently. But in traditional data warehouses, you can't differentiate that, and you have to hold the entire data in your data warehouse, and then that adds to your the size of your data warehouse, and that's where the cost is. Whereas when you decouple that, you can actually have your 80% of the data sitting on the data lake, and then 20% of data sitting on Redshift. But then the queries don't have to differentiate. They can still go to Redshift, and then Redshift will using Spectrum will be able to handle that, and also using federated queries if it is OLTP databases. So you can query without moving your data. Your data can heterogeneously stay in your ODS databases. You can stay on S3 data lake, and you will be able to query, do join seamlessly across all these different data sources with Redshift, and that way you are able to decouple storage and compute.
Absolutely. Thank you, Shekhar. So there's another question from Pratik Mittal. So Pratik, I'm going to unmute you. You please can go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, hi. So we are using Redshift as a data warehouse, and it has been like we have been using it for more than 4 years now. The issue which we started facing very recently is we have implemented a dimensional model on top of Redshift, but the dimensions load is taking a lot of time for past couple of months. It seems that the updates are really slow. So what is the way around it? How can we design our process better to get around this issue?
So Shekhar, Sudhir, do you want to start with that? And Shekhar, do you want to add to it?
Yeah, sure. I can go after Sudhir unless you want me to start.
Go ahead.
Yes, yeah, Shekhar, go ahead, and I will add something there.
It is. There are various ways of it boils down to your data model, right? So there are various ways of optimizing. So it depends on how big your dimension table is. If it is not too big, there is a distribution style of all where you can actually have copies of it's just a couple million records. Then you will be able to can actually have a copy of that running on all the different nodes, and that way when you are doing joins, you do not have to join across nodes, right? So dist style matters. And then if it is pretty big, if it is almost as big as a fact table, then you probably want to use the distribution key, and then you have to pick the right key so that the joins do not have to cross the nodes. The joins remain local to the same node, depending on what key you are choosing. So actually, there is we have I can get your information, and we also have Redshift health check programs. And I have worked with several customers. I encourage customers to take advantage of that and reach out to us. So once you provide us your cluster ID and account number, and you're in the region in which you have your cluster running, we'll be able to come up with some custom recommendations as applicable to your specific use case, and perform a one-to-one readout on opportunities to optimize your spend, and then see if and optimize your performance. So that is something which I can encourage you to take advantage of. And Sudhir, if you want to add.
Yeah, Sikar, as you said, I think definitely, I mean, in order to get the best performance out of from Amazon Redshift, there are a few key things, right? I mean, which people expect sometimes, to do some changes into the table design, especially like the distribution key, sort keys, even sometimes the compression. These are the three very basic elements we really ask everyone to pay attention so that you get the best performance. And as you were describing, right, so that like the performance, I mean, and what kind of distributions we are using, it depends on what kind of table and how you are going to using it for your queries. So for example, if you have the tables which are joined very frequently on a specific column, we recommend create a distribution key on that particular column so that you get the best performance. And especially, I mean, specific to the question, I think regarding the slow updates, I will recommend, see, the Amazon Redshift is append only, or based upon the append only architecture. It means that we never modify the existing block. So if if you make the update, we actually internally we perform the delete and update and delete and then insert, and it is little bit slow. I mean, it creates some holes. So what is the alternate mechanisms we recommend to the customer? Maybe load the data in temporary table and then make the join, so I mean, delete the matching records and insert all the records in one go. In that way, you will be able to, I mean, update the majority of the records in a fast manner. And that will also not create holes much on the Redshift tables. So this will also improve the performance. So there are some other best practices which we can divert. In fact, we have a couple of blogs. Maybe at the end of the session, I will provide those blog links which you can consider to optimize the performance of your ETL as well as to improve the performance of your queries. And plus, definitely, like the Seeker said, I mean, they have the expertise available, and they can run some, the review of your work. They can review your workload and the design of your cluster and the tables, and then they can provide set of recommendations. So definitely, I think these guys can help you if you are not able to improve the performance by yourself.
So we have a couple of minutes left now. So I would take the last question. So one question is, all the panelists can put any links in the chat and then send it to everybody, including the attendees. So please feel free to put the links in the chat. So with this, I would like to go to our last question today. I know there are a couple of more questions. There are about 6 more questions, but we are out of our time. So I want to make sure we answer one of the questions from Bharat. And Bharat, if you don't mind, I would be reading this out for you, and then we can proceed. So his question is, we do a lot of marketing analytics and use various databases. So can you explain some of the use cases to use Amazon Redshift? So I would like to take this question, and then I would invite Shekhar and Sudhir to answer that further. But yes, we have been using Redshift a lot for marketing analytics for our customers. And we have been migrating customers from their on-premise Postgres, MySQL data warehouses or databases to Redshift. One of that use case is one of our customers called Hansa CQP, where we have implemented data Redshift, which completely changed their data analytics pipeline. So marketing analytics largely is needed to find out a lot of customer segmentation, customer demographics, help them, help their analytics team to find out the better targeting mechanisms. And that eventually leads to machine learning. And once we move them to Redshift, there is an integrated pipeline we can build from your Redshift to SageMaker, which is a machine learning platform on AWS, to enhance the experience for your analytics team. So yes, marketing analytics use cases are many on Redshift, and Redshift supports almost every use case from the data analytics perspective. And you get an integrated platform of building dashboards, building reporting tools through QuickSight and Jaspersoft, and then there are multiple tool sets which you can integrate with Redshift, which are readily come available on AWS to enhance your analytics experience. So Shekhar, do you want to add some aspects of marketing analytics you might have experienced with your customers?
Yes, sure. I have a customer who is doing a marketing analytics on Redshift. And I have several, but I think one comes to my mind, which is basically they get data from several different sources, as well as they have all this even clickstream data and several other data, and this they are also using what they are doing is they want to build the factors, right, and then all the factors that impact, that are that are having any change to their model, and they use they do all these analytics on Redshift, and they use that as the input for their machine learning models. They develop models and train the models. And then I also want to add to it that now Redshift is also integrated very well with SageMaker. And then for SageMaker ML, you can actually use some of the machine learning and implement and use that directly on Redshift. And you can use some of the SageMaker models, and you can use that for training, and then you can do a lot of analytics as well as machine learning modeling and on top of Redshift. So if you're interested, I can definitely talk about that.
Please feel free to share all the links on the chat for everybody so they can access those. So with that, Dan, do you want to go ahead and take this ahead with the conclusion of with last couple of slides?
Yeah, thanks everybody. Thanks panelists, and thanks for the questions. Time just flies when you can get deep into some really important dialogue. But we thank you for being here, and we would encourage you, if there's a way that we can help with the specifics around your journey. We offer an immersion day workshop. And this is going to take your team through a process to identify the factors unique to your business, and then the possible solutions to provide you with a TCO and path forward to help you with implementing the right transformation. So just if you could, go to the website there that was on the previous slide that says mctrs.com/DWAWS, and we can get into your specifics and spend some quality time flushing all that out. And then just a little bit about Mactores. We've got some factors there about how we're able to derive from some value. You can read through that, but to give you some context, we quickly solve core business problems that drives disruptive change by applying the latest technologies and manage rapid migrations and transform solutions to accelerate the enterprise data platform migrations using automation. So that's a little bit about Mactores. Happy to help. We've got a number of links that are going into the chat right now that will allow you to get some deeper resources. And then just as we kind of wrap this up, I do have a quick 1-minute video about just how a few customer use cases and how the Mactores automation and approach supports these customer transformations. But thank you all, and enjoy the rest of your days.
Many organizations are struggling with traditional data warehousing not supporting ever-increasing demands of rapidly growing data volumes, data refresh speeds, and predictive analytics. The Mactores accelerators enables you to analyze your legacy systems like Netezza, Oracle Data Warehouse, Teradata, and Microsoft SQL, enabling rapid migration to Amazon Redshift. Mactores helps you with a comprehensive migration strategy, ensuring data quality, data consistency, and data lineage during and after the migration. De-risk your migration with our in-depth experience in transforming your data warehouse to Amazon Redshift. To learn more about migrating to Amazon Redshift, visit our website, mactores.com/DW on AWS.